I'm in my garage, as you can see, and I'm drinking a botanical, an herbal tea, aka an herbal tea. And this one has turmeric in it and some lemongrass, and some pepper, a pinch of hot pepper flake, and a few other ingredients. Oh, and fennel seed is the other big one. And why am I drinking this? It doesn't have caffeine. It's late at night. It's almost 9 p.m. So it won't interrupt my sleeping pattern. And this is something that works as an anti-inflammatory, theoretically. I have a bad right shoulder that I continually try to rehab. I try to do everything I can with it. I've been swinging a mace. I've been swinging a kettlebell. I've been swinging Indian clubs. And it gets incrementally better over time, which is nice because I felt as though it was only getting worse for years. Then I had an incident where it got really bad and had kind of given up on it. I mean, I really couldn't reach to a high shelf and grab anything. My shoulder would feel as though it was dislocated. So I went to the doctors. I had a shot and it made it a little bit better briefly. And then since then, the only thing that's had any positive effect has been certain forms of exercise, right? You rest it too much, it just seems to get worse, or maybe just stay the same. And the trick with the exercise is it feels as though you have to go right to the point where you're making it worse, and it's hard to find that point because I'll go and swing a 20-pound mace. I'm up to a 20-pound mace, which is pretty heavy for a mace, at least for me, as a relative beginner to mace swinging. And I'll feel okay, and then I'll go lie down in my bed, and I can't even use my right arm to turn the pages of a book. But I feel as though if I wasn't doing that, it would be even worse, and I'm just trying to work through something. Maybe it's foolishness on my part. I don't know. But either way, hey, I swung the mace today, and it feels pretty darn good. I didn't swing it for long. I swung it for less than I did yesterday because of the shoulder problems. The kettlebell doesn't really seem to bother it when I'm just doing swings. Certain kettlebell exercises do bother it. And I feel as though it's getting a lot stronger. Even if the pain is only a little bit better, the strength is significantly better, and I would like to think that matters. So I'm doing other things as well. I'm trying to eat as much of an anti-inflammatory diet as I can, and the herbal teas probably help. I would like to think they help. Turmeric is a classic anti-inflammatory. I think there's a little ginger in there too, another classic anti-inflammatory. And then with the hot peppers, which contain capsaicin and a little bit of pepper, and all these kind of good things. These are meant to make it easy for me to go to sleep and to have a restful sleep where I'm not woken up by my shoulder, which I was an issue for years. I would say it was an issue that I was waking up, or I had trouble falling asleep because of shoulder pain. So this is not a proper tea that I'm drinking tonight. I will have proper teas out here at some point now that the weather's getting a little bit warmer. It's a little bit of hot pepper. It might be too much for some people, but I think it's useful. So I've been reading as much as I can in my spare time, and avoiding TV, avoiding the news, avoiding the internet as much as possible, although I like to use Instagram, and I like to, I try to filter my feed so that it's as positive and useful as possible for me. So that it gives me information. So like I'll follow people who swing Indian clubs because I like to look at their routines and I like to get a sense of their form. And then there are certain people who swing Indian clubs who, don't speak to me as much because of whatever level they're at or whatever their presentation is. And then other ones where I could watch them swing Indian clubs all day and I find it sort of relaxing. I have poi, those poi swinging things that I guess people use at music festivals. I got some poi, and I've started swinging those because I guess those are really good for your shoulders. And it's also good because you learn tricks, you learn new patterns. I'm not good at it. It's a little, I feel a little self-conscious out in my yard swinging these balls around, and occasionally hitting myself in the head, pretty often hitting myself in the head. But I feel as though I'm learning movement patterns. I feel as though it's good. It's nothing that's going to impress anyone, but it feels good. I'm doing lots of push-ups because I'm doing a fundraiser right now for an organization that raises awareness for veterans' issues relating to suicide. It's up on my Facebook page. I changed the goal. I already hit the goal a couple times, so the goal is now at 500, which I'm pretty close to. I don't think I'm going to keep upping the goal after that because I think it maybe annoys people who are like, there's only $20 left and they give me $20 and then the goal changes. So maybe it's unfair to the people who are donating to continually up the goal. So I'm going to leave the goal at 500, and I hope to hit that goal, and I hope to surpass that goal. So I've been doing a lot of push-ups, and I've been using the Wim Hof method for the push-ups, which is a breathing technique. So you start with this kind of breathing technique, and it allows you to do more push-ups than you normally would be able to do. Before this month, so the goal is to do 2,200 push-ups in a month. It's obviously not that hard if you can do push-ups, because you can do them in sets. You could do one every 5 minutes and hit that goal pretty easily before the month is out. So hitting the goal is not 2,200 sounds like a lot until you divide it up by 31 days and you realize it's not that much. And if you break your sets up, it's not that much. Before that, I was doing dans or kind of Hindu, what they sometimes call Hindu push-ups, which is looks a lot more like the sun salutation in yoga, and I believe that the sun salutation comes from the dand, from that movement sequence. And those are pretty good for your shoulder too, and also there's a mobility component to it that I like very much. And occasionally I'll throw in a couple dans at the ends of the sets, but I'm not counting them towards the total. I'm sticking with the spirit of the exercise, and only counting the kind of, I guess you'd maybe call them Western style push-ups. I don't know. Where were push-ups invented? I don't know. Greece? Turkey? The Middle East? Morocco? I don't know where push-ups were invented. And I'm also doing a number of other sort of Wim Hof related exercises. I got out of the habit of doing that for a while, and now I'm getting back into it. Why am I getting back into it? Because it just feels great. These breathing exercises, you forget how intense they can be and how pleasant they can be. And it's taking time off puts it in perspective. So you take a month off, you haven't done it, or 2 months, or whatever it was, and then you do it again. You're like, I remember that feeling. You can feel pretty wonderful sometimes, although there can be a downside as well. I've noticed my vision gets sort of skewed for about 5 or 10 minutes after doing sort of multiple rounds of intense Wim Hof breathing. I get a little bit of tunnel vision, which I can have a problem with anyways, and there have been incidences where I was unable to read something, like on my phone, like my eyes were just completely blurring and I could not read after doing the Wim Hof breathing. That went away. I've read explanations on Reddit of why this is the case. I don't want to speak to that. It's beyond my understanding. But it happens. I know that it happens. I've been very much enjoying listening to a lot of music recently, particularly British folk revival and some doom metal and some drone music. I read Monolithic Overlord. What was it? Am I getting the name wrong already? Monolithic Undertow by Harry Sword. That's his real name. Who writes for The Quietus, which is a fantastic music website in the UK. And this is a history of drone music, but loosely defined in a good way, so that the writer was able to show patterns in different musics that I've enjoyed throughout my life where I hadn't seen a pattern before. So maybe it's not obvious that there is a relationship that goes just beyond the obvious with Terry Riley, experimental music, Pauline Oliveros, and hardcore punk, and Fairport Convention, and The Sun, and Electric Wizard, and all these sort of different things. And then the writer shows, oh no, there was this sort of connection, Indian classical music. So it sort of made me think, wow, that this is like this sort of like lifelong interest, because the way he traces it back, it's like, it's like tracing my own musical tastes back to the age of 12, pretty much, maybe even before that. So I found that revealing. I found that revealing that a book on drone music was in some ways a map of my musical interests through the decades, with a few exceptions. There are certain bands that I've liked in my life that are that wouldn't fit within this pattern. Like I went through a big Dylan phase. I don't see there being much. I mean, you can make a case, but you really have to stretch it that this whatever it is about drone, whatever it is that it makes you feel, is something that you're going to find in Desolation Row or something like that. I mean, it's there. It's always there in music. You definitely, the way I understand it, you definitely don't find it in a lot of, certain types of jazz and certain types of classical music. For sure. So, speaking of music, by the way, I noticed something on Instagram. I don't know if anyone else has noticed it. If you notice it, mention it in the comments. I haven't looked up what's going on. But the other day, I took a picture of a poem I was reading by Wang Wei, the classical Chinese poet, and threw it up on Instagram, as I do sometimes. And they left the text where I said Wang Wei, but they removed the image. As far as I can tell, because it was just a black screen, assuming it wasn't a fluke. So I said, well, this is odd. So I went back and I read the poem into an Instagram story, posted it, checked it 10 minutes later, and they had taken it down. It was gone. It's like, how would the algorithms, how would they know? I mean, first of all, Wang Wei is long dead. There's no copyright issue with Wang Wei. There is a copyright issue with the translation, which I think is fairly recent. But how, like, has it gotten to that point where it's able to instantly pick things out just by, like, you can't read copyrighted material out loud, even if it's something like a short poem. That's, that's odd to me. I wonder what's going on. And then I got a copy of the Richard Thompson biography, which I think is just the first volume, Beeswing, just came out today, and I took a picture of one of the pictures in the middle of the book, and that got stripped out. It was just of a flyer. Now, it's strange to me. I doubt the owner, the guy who made this flyer, has copyright to it. So what's going on right now? I've never seen this before. Because occasionally I'll post a picture of something I'm reading or a quote. And so this has happened 3 times in the past 3 days. So there's something going on. There was a show. The print is so small. There was a show in England called the Bath Festival. And 2 days. Canned Heat, John Mayall, Steppenwolf, Johnny Winter, who I know of, and one of these big figures I've never listened to him as far as I know. Pink Floyd, a band I very much love. Fairport Convention, of course, I'm a huge Fairport Convention fan. Led Zeppelin, Frank Zappa, Jefferson Airplane, the Moody Blues, the Byrds, Santana, Dr. John, another guy I love, Country Joe, and Hot Tuna. That was a concert in England. That'd be a fun bill. I would have enjoyed much of that, I think, as much as I don't like going to music festivals. Probably would have enjoyed that one. Anyways, I posted a picture of that flyer, and it got taken off of Instagram. The 2 books I'm working my way through right now in what little spare time I have. This is something, I probably talk to the point where I'm being annoying to my wife and my friends about this. There's certain things that you want to read because you think it's good for you, like it's good for your focus, and you want to learn the subject matter, and the subject matter calls to you. But it's, I live with 2 very young, noisy kids. I don't live in a cabin in the woods. I don't have the environment in which I could really concentrate. Even, when the kids are inside sometimes and I go outside, I have neighbors who are just constantly running power tools and all sorts of stuff. And there's just, I live in the suburbs. For the suburbs, my neighborhood could be surprisingly noisy at times. For me, not conducive to thoughtful reading. So you really have to read stuff that just like grabs you, that's fun, but also is informative about the sort of things that you're interested in, right? If it's just merely fun, I kind of struggle with that too, because it's like, what's the point? So I want to be learning, and I want to be always pushing forward, but it has to be something with this kind of immediacy so that it can cut through the clutter, cut through all the noise. Music writing, if it's a subject I care about, is generally like that for me. Like Forever Eden, the book on the British folk music revival. I've read that once. I'll probably read it again soon. I just pick that thing up and I will drift away for 20 minutes and completely lose myself in it. I'm just a sucker for music writing. This I just got, the Richard Thompson Beeswing. I read, the first 20 or 25 pages. Same thing. A bomb could have gone off in the room, and I still would have been transfixed by this. It's hard for me to believe. One of the tricks is it's ghostwritten, and whenever you have a ghostwriter, now of course everything's edited, so you never know. Like even if it's like Raymond Carver or something, you don't know what's his. So my feeling is this is extremely well written. But how much of that is the hand of the ghostwriter saying, like tweaking, and how much of that naturally comes out of him? If it's like 80 or 90% Richard Thompson, or even 70%, I'm pretty impressed with him as a storyteller in a way that I wasn't expecting. If you know much about him, he seems relatively quiet. Someone who likes to let the music speak. I met his wife once in Lowell. I was in Brewed Awakening in Lowell, which is a very nice cafe in downtown Lowell. And Richard Thompson was playing during the summer music series at night. I've always been a huge Richard Thompson fan. I saw him, multiple times through the years in different places where I've lived. Never with a band. I've always just seen him with a guitar, which is too bad because I want to see him with a band at some point. Anyway, a friend of mine worked there and said, "Hey, are you into this guy, Richard Thompson?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a huge Richard Thompson fan." She had a pair of tickets and she wasn't really interested. It wasn't her thing, or she was busy, whatever it was. And she gave them to me. And as we're sitting there talking, this woman turns around and she overhears the conversation. She's like, "Oh, I'm Richard Thompson's wife." So we had this long conversation about like reishi mushrooms. I don't even know how it came up. And she actually invited me backstage because she said, "Oh, Richard's going to be interested in this subject, this sort of thing he's interested in." Now, to me, he just seems painfully shy. So I didn't go backstage. I feel weird about approaching sort of famous people because I don't know what to say. I always feel like an idiot, and like I'd rather just kind of let them be, I think. I'm definitely not someone who's interested in autographs or any of that. It doesn't matter to me. So I did not go back and meet Richard Thompson. I don't regret that. I would do it again. If I was invited backstage to see Richard Thompson next week, I probably would not go backstage. I would probably opt to leave him alone. And that's the case with many of the musicians I admire. I don't know if off the top of my head I can think of. I mean, even like it's always a disaster. I went to see Craig Finn from the Hold Steady solo show, and I was exceptionally drunk that night. And it was a period of time where I wasn't drinking a lot, and the alcohol just really went to my head. I think a friend of mine was the bartender, and I was sort of being handed drinks. It was one of those things. And I like that guy's music. I think he's a great lyricist, and he's a very interesting figure. And we have this weird connection where he used to live in the same apartment building as a friend of mine in Williamsburg. And I wanted to talk to him about this and say, hey, it's crazy because I used to occasionally sleep over at this guy's house, and you guys were there, and I didn't know much about you at the time. I didn't know anything about you at the time, but we would have had a lot to talk about because we're into a lot of the same type of music. We grew up in the same way. We're probably about the same age, give or take, who knows. But it just came out as like I knew I was slurring my words. I know I was sounding like an idiot. And he was so graceful with me. Like, he was looking at me like, just kind of like, yeah, it's okay. I get it. He was so nice to me, despite the fact that I just knew in the moment that I was sounding like a complete idiot, and that I did want to communicate something with this guy. I learned my lesson. I should have just kept my trap shut. Hold Steady. New record's out. That's good too. What else do I have? Doug Bierend's In Search of Mycotopia, Citizen Science, Fungi Fanatics, and the Untapped Potential of Mushrooms, a subject that I cannot read enough about. The Merlin Sheldrake book about mushrooms is fantastic. I read that this winter. This is kind of a follow-up of that. It works along similar themes. I've picked away at it, and I've been very impressed. I enjoy it very much. And man, I just wish I didn't have to sleep because there are so many great books to read. My other pursuit recently, I've long been interested in meditation. I've been meditating since I was a kid, with many years at times where I'm not doing it. But I've been digging in on meditation and meditating more and studying different meditative traditions such as Taoism and Tibetan Buddhism and others, and just meditating every morning when I get up before the kids, which I don't always do, and then every night, and doing different types of meditation, and that I very much like. You know, when you're dealing with a lot of uncertainty and just a lot of, I should be reading this, I should be working on this, I should be doing this, I should be thinking about, you know, there's all sorts of things you need to be, or you're drawn to think about, all intractable problems. And there are philosophical paths you can go down that help you organize your thinking and give you some sort of guidance in your choices. I like reading about the Stoics. I like reading, the even nihilistic philosophers like Emil Cioran. I like Nietzsche. I don't read a lot of Nietzsche, but I, liked him a lot when I was younger. Probably will spend a lot of time reading Nietzsche at some point in my life. Love Schopenhauer. I read some Schopenhauer recently. There's been some nice collections of Schopenhauer that have come out recently. And then obviously I like Asian philosophy, but all these things, as helpful as they can be, also present more mental clutter sometimes too, right? And they become more things too. Wow, what if I search here? What if I read this guy? What if I go down this path? And what should I do with this information? And more and more and more and more. And meditation allows you to cut through that. And I read a quote recently, and like if you look at Instagram, there's all these quotes of the Buddha, and then you look into it. First of all, reading it that the Buddha didn't say it, because it just wouldn't be in the language of the Buddha. If you know anything about Buddhism, you already know many of these quotes just aren't by Buddha. So this quote was supposedly from Lao Tzu. So, was it really Lao Tzu? I don't know. I've never seen it in the book. I saw it on the internet. And he said something like, I'm gonna really botch it right now. Something along the lines of to gain Knowledge, you need to read and study. And to gain wisdom, you need to put the books away. I'm paraphrasing. This is the way I interpret it, but you get the idea, right? Is knowledge is involved in this search, this looking out, discovery of new things, discovery of new ideas, memorization, looking at history, looking at ideas. There's a Taoist belief that this deep wisdom, which includes spontaneity and harmony and all sorts of great things and serenity, comes from stepping back from all that. And when you meditate, if you have certain techniques, or if you're lucky, or if you're in the right place, if you're persistent, if you're disciplined enough, you can occasionally do that with the hopes of becoming maybe a little bit wiser, right? A little bit more understanding, a little bit more sympathetic to your fellow humans. My friend Russell, I think it was my friend Russell, said that if I do one of these YouTube videos, I should just meditate as part of it. So that's how I'm going to end. So if you don't want to meditate with me, you don't have to. You can end this right now, assuming you've gotten this far. But can I angle this a little bit? But I am going to, for just 5 minutes, meditate as, just a weird way of connecting with whoever is watching this. And then I'm going to take some sips of tea, and I'm going to go back in my house and probably meditate some more, and maybe do some more push-ups, and read the Richard Thompson autobiography, and maybe a little bit of the Doug Bierend In Search of Mycotopia. So thank you for listening to me tonight. I hope to get out here more in the near future to talk about books and tea and these little things that give me, and meditation, these little things that give me pleasure in life. And maybe we'll dig a little bit deeper into Taoism and what that is, and why it's might be certain periods of Taoist thought might be helpful to you, whatever your philosophical bent or wherever you are in life. I'm sitting in a chair, which I don't like to do. I prefer a meditation cushion, but I'm in my garage. This is what I got. So my posture isn't great. I have my hands in a mudra position like this. This is neat, by the way. I used to go to a Zen temple in Brooklyn, and the nun said something, and I might have been over-interpreting, but the mudra actually has a sort of practical purpose, which is, as you're meditating, if you're feeling your thumbs pressing too hard, you're too tense and you need to change the position of your hands, and if they're slipping apart, you're too lax. So the mudra has a purpose, because if your thumbs are touching but not, grinding into each other and not slipping apart, they're kind of where they should be, right? Not something to be overemphasized, but something to notice. And in this type of meditation, your tongue goes to the top of your mouth to lock in, and you don't close your eyes all the way. You don't want this to become dreamlike. You don't want to fall asleep. You're not sleeping, you're waking up, right? So in this type of meditation that I do, I'm going to almost close my eyes. It might even appear as though I'm closing my eyes, but I am not closing my eyes all the way. And by the way, it's not a bald spot right there. My hair is going white. I don't mind either. I don't mind if I lose my hair, and I don't mind that you can see I got a lot of white. I don't mind that my hair is going white. I'm completely fine with it. But I do always see this in the light and think, man, in a certain light, it really looks like I have this bald spot right here. It's not. It's just light. It's just light. Somebody looked at a video of me from the 495 podcast and said, they said, and I quote, "Nice goatee, bro." I don't have a goatee. I haven't had a goatee since I was 22 years old. But what happened was that this white here was a little bit shorter, so you couldn't see that I have white hairs here that are as long as the kind of darker hairs right here. So it looked like I had a goatee. I don't have a goatee. Anyways, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes, and you're welcome to join me. About 5 minutes. Timing is pretty good. At the end of every meditation, I always think to myself, peace to all sentient beings, peace to all sentient beings, peace to all sentient beings. And I do this because I read it somewhere, maybe, I don't know. But I like the spirit of it, which is that you, rather than this just being about your own stress levels, that at the end you have this kind of wish for other people and things and other sentient things, that they also find a little bit of serenity in our crazy world. So thank you for wasting your time with me in the garage this evening. I hope you're drinking something delicious and helpful. And I will leave you, and who knows, if more than 10 people watch this, maybe I'll do another one this week. Who knows?